What's wrong, Tara?
We've more comments saying that we never talk about modern prog.
Do you know what this means, Tara? It means we need to do a series on modern prog. What is modern prog? Let's start with the 90's and 90's. Greetings, everybody. Greetings. We get an odd comment now and again from people. Love all the comments. Very welcome. A lot of them say, "Oh, you don't talk about modern prog." To which my question is always, what is modern prog? Is modern as in stuff that is out now? Or is it stuff that was out 20 years ago, outside of the canon of classic prog? Or what is it? So I got to talk. Go on, Terry, you're going to say something.
I find it hard because a lot of the old prog is new to me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I talk about it a lot, because I could only be discovering certain things now. And, you know, maybe I'll get to discovering modern prog eventually, but it's just, I feel like I'm always being attacked, like, over it.
Oh, no, I mean, it's the same with a lot of our viewers and friends that we've made. I had a great conversation with one of the friends that we have in our comments, and I was asking him what modern prog was, and he started to say it was all these. He started naming off all these bands that are about 20 years old, like, you know, albums that are about 20 years old. It's a lot older than prog was when I was discovering prog. Like, a lot of those albums would have been about between 7 and 10 years old when I first discovered the classic era of prog, and I thought they were real old at the time. So anyway, we've decided to dig into what modern prog is, and we're starting with the 90's and 00's, which I think was a brilliant time to be into music. I really enjoyed it because a load of stuff started to kind of happen, which was really exciting. And after the horror that was the 80's, it was nice to come back to something that was a bit authentic. Yeah. So I don't know, a quick bit of background. Where did all this come from? I think it all started with when record companies started paying attention to people who were real bands. You know, there was stuff what they called grunge that came out of Seattle and this sort of thing. And when they talked about grunge, all I heard was rock and roll. I heard bands that went back to producing rock using electric guitars and these sort of things. There was some great stuff coming out of Manchester. I remember the Inspiral Carpets, was it, with Hammond organs and everything like this, and everything. I thought brilliant. I remember Lenny Kravitz talking about how he, he had a couple of singles out that were kind of very reminiscent of kind of 60s rock and everything like that. And I remember him saying that he had to buy an old mixing desk and things like this, and a lot of the old valve amplification came back into fashion again, which was all thrown out, or tubes, as our American colleagues would say. So yeah, a lot of this stuff started to come back, and it created a more of a kind of a, how can I put it, an authentic music, something that was a bit more in the spirit of things.
Human.
Yeah. And one of the first albums I remember that kind of turned me on that something really special was happening would have been Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots by the Flaming Lips. I remember listening to that and going, my God, that's all analog. It's analog synths and everything like that. Couldn't believe it. King Crimson made their comeback.
Yeah.
Huge effect and influence on music, like, you know. So next thing, all these bands started to come out and everything, and I had an absolute ball.
I'm sure you did.
You know, so I was going to see all these bands. So we're going to talk through some of the bands. So we kind of take it in turns. Do you want to go first this time, Tara?
Sure.
Seeing as I'm always going first, she gives me an awful lot of time over.
I am going to talk about Tool, because this is all cracked, Dad. What did you do to it?
I must have had an accident.
Put it back in the sleeve. Tool See, all this time and the other music kind of melds into one for me because I was only born in 1999, like, so I didn't live through any of it, you know, like maybe I was a kid during the 2000s, teenager in the 2010s and that, so it didn't have as much of an effect on me. I didn't get to go and see them or anything. And I didn't experience most of the albums coming out. So it was kind of a similar situation for me with the way I listen to older prog, you know, through that. Tool, I remember when you got to 10,000 Days.
Yeah.
And for some reason with me, it was always artwork with me that would kind of strike me and pull me in. And I remember that CD had like visual things, art
3D
and stuff
things
in it.
with lenses in it. Yeah, it's there somewhere, but yeah.
But that's what kind of struck me first, and it didn't dawn on me at the time that it was like a modern band or anything, but as I got older I got more into them. I really got into metal when I was a teenager. I started listening to like System of a Down and Slipknot and all those, and Tool started to creep back into my life because I was rediscovering prog at the same time as getting into metal, and this was like best of both worlds, them Dream Theater, Opeth and all, and I love them more and more and more every time I listen to them. I think the musicianship in it is great. It's really weird and different. The lyrics are fantastic. Like, some of the songs are about really kind of terrible things, but they're brilliant. Their music videos can be quite disturbing, but I like that when they aren't afraid to make their audience feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's a good thing, like, you know, you can't be sitting in your comfort zone all the time.
No.
And Tool have made a comeback a few years ago. They brought out Fear Inoculum and went back on tour, and they seem to be flying at the moment. I know Danny Carey is playing with the Beat Project, but that doesn't, there's been no announcements that there's going to be a stop to Tool. They seem to be kind of hitting the accelerator again at the moment, which is great.
Well, I hope they do, because they kind of stopped and they were on a real high, and I think they had a lot more gas in the tank when they finished up.
Yeah.
I mean, I came across bought a bass player magazine, and there was an interview with the bass player in it, and he just said, he said he was with this band and he was talking about Tool, and he said our main influences are King Crimson, Pink Floyd and Gong. And I said, I have to see this band. And I was working in a theatre at the time, and they came to Dublin, and I said, is there any chance you can get me on the guest list? And I arrived at the Tool gig on the guest list.
Guest list at a Tool gig.
Because, well, I wouldn't, and because I was so mean, I wouldn't pay for the ticket. And they were mind-blowing, they were fantastic. And I suppose, as we're on the subject, who was supporting them? Only Mastodon. With this, and this was the backdrop that they had when they were live. So they were on the Blood Mountain tour, which was it was great, but I thought they were a bit noisy at the time.
That's a very heavy album.
Yeah, I thought they were a bit noisy, and I just thought, God, you know what I said? Those guys would be great if they were able to kind of take the foot off the gas a bit more.
Yeah.
Which they must have heard my mind. Because they took all my advice on board. Yeah, so Mastodon, I love Mastodon, great band. I've seen them live, I don't know, about 3 or 4 times now, and they're just absolutely great. Love them live, love all their albums, everything that they do, great fun, loads of energy.
Great, yeah.
And very creative, like, very intelligent music as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tara, next.
Anathema. They're one that you went to see live. Did you see them live?
I've seen Anathema live a couple of times.
Honest to God, like.
Yeah.
So unfair. But
I first came across.
Get into that story now and tell them.
What?
That they're not as good live.
No. I first came across them as a support act. They were supporting Opeth. And
for God's God's sake.
I read about Anathema. I read that Anathema were the support band, so I read up on Anathema, and I found out that they'd been this kind of metal thing that went into this thing. And I went to see him supporting Opeth, and they were brilliant. And then I went to see them on their own playing, and they weren't good at all. And I believe there was some issues with some members of the band and mental illness and things like that, which eventually led to the band becoming no more.
But their albums are very strong.
They're brilliant, yeah. I would really highly recommend them if you haven't.
They're very good.
Tried them out, yeah.
I remember someone on YouTube made a fan video years ago, and it was, do you know that film Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Yeah,
Jim Carrey.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless
that's
Mind,
it, yeah. And it was like parts of that put together with Thin Air over it.
Yeah, Thin Air is just fabulous.
It was unreal, like, and that song is just fabulous. Like,
we're here because we're here. That's the album.
Fantastic. But yeah, they are very good now, and they have some some great songs. Yeah,
and an awful lot of this music at that time was coming out of Scandinavia and everything, which is great. I think there was something to do with not having the English language as your main language that helped these people to kind of avoid the pop cliches and everything like that, So one great band to come out at the time was the Flower Kings. I absolutely love them, Ryan Stolt and his group, and how can I put it? They're a bit kind of like a tribute act to Prog. So it's very much like these guys are obviously big fans of classic Prog, and they reproduce something that sounds like classic Prog, and it's great. Some of the other stuff that we talked about earlier, Anathema and Mastodon and things like that, it's obvious that they were kind of rock musicians who were into rock.
Yeah.
And then they kind of went into kind of expanding it into other things, whereas like the earlier Prog people, you could tell like some come from a classical background or folk background, jazz background, and then they kind of bring these elements into the prog. Whereas what we noticed around this time in the 90's and 00's was a load of kind of people that were into rock, bringing that to, so a lot of it had rock sensibilities. But Flower Kings is much more like an old kind of 70s sound to them. I really like them, and if you like that kind of classic prog, they're a great band for you to yeah. So, Tara.
The big one, Porcupine Tree. We all know Porcupine Tree now. But great band. I really, really enjoyed their music when I was a teenager. I loved that dark prog sound, like and like the heavy guitars and drums, and the way Stephen Wilson would pull in like synthesizers and Hammond organs and everything into the music was just divine, but made it sound so evil. Now they do have some lovely songs like Lazarus and Gravity Island and all, but a lot of them are very dark, and this album particularly has some really dark.
It is a dark album,
and it's great, like unreal.
I saw them on that tour actually. Yeah, very good. But it was kind of the end, it kind of ended there, and Stephen Wilson went off doing his solo stuff. Speaking of which, Stephen Wilson solo material, absolutely great. I mean, there's so many different, very eclectic.
Yeah.
But when he's in the zone and he's producing something that's fantastic, it is fantastic. Every album that he's done has some moment of just absolute genius on it. So yeah, highly recommend that.
That one, Raider 2 on that one.
Stop. There's so much on this, I was just reading the titles, I was going, which one will I mention? I could talk about them all, jeez. So so great stuff, like, so.
Now, you talk about Pain of Salvation, because when I was a child and I saw this CD, I was terrified of it, and I couldn't listen to them, because I'd always see that picture. Now I know Inside off this, and I think that's a great song.
Well, the whole thing, I mean, it's An Hour by the Concrete Lake, which is, fantastic. It's about the earth and how it's being destroyed and everything like that. And he'd gone into college, and Daniel Gildenlove, and he'd studied a master's in environmental studies or something, took the time off from the band to do that, and then came out with this album as a result of
That's
it.
some dedication, like, you know.
Yeah, apparently there's some lake in Russia which they've had to line with concrete in order to stop all the chemicals and stuff leaching into the earth around it. And if you stand by it for an hour, you can get, you might be physically affected to a horrible degree. But like lots of concept albums, lots of real interesting stuff with these guys. A lot of kind of digging into what is it to be human. What does that mean? You know, love this band. They're a big kind of concept albums. A thing called B, which is fabulous. You know, about the end of the world and like creating an artificial intelligence which goes into space and then like goes through some time distortion and comes back and
Prog.
starts the earth. Yeah, very, very proggy, but also kind of very heavy and rocky at the same time.
And sophisticated as well.
Yeah.
Like, your man's voice, I can't get over him.
Danny Gildenlow is brilliant,
Wow.
and every album is kind of different. It comes at it from a different thing. I really got into Pain of Salvation in the 90's, loved them. Never got to see them live.
Yeah.
Never got to see them, and then Daniel got very unwell, and they've kind of been struggling backwards and forwards since. But their catalogue of albums is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Tara, what have you got for us next?
So, the Mars Volta. First one I heard was Deloused in the Comatorium.
Brilliant, yeah.
Oh my god, Roulette Dares. I used to just be blown away by how it would start and just bang into the tune. And then I got into listening to their albums fully when I was older, of course. And it's after this one. This is Octahedron, by the way. After this one, something happened.
They took a bit of a downturn, yeah.
And they seem to be looking to cater for people that are kind of into Hispanic rap music or something. Like, I don't understand how they took such a turn. But this period, like, from here back, is fantastic.
Yeah. Deloused in the Comatorium, Francis the Mute, what else have you got? Amputecture.
What's
that
the one
one?
with, like, Ileana and all on it?
Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Well,
but,
you know,
yeah.
We have them all, yeah. And I've seen them live a couple of times. They were a marvellous band. First time I saw them was on the, what's the name of that one?
What's it called? Hang on, I'll get it.
Yes.
Because that'll drive me mad.
Yeah, it's a great album, fabulous album. Oh, my brain is gone, Tara. Let me think now, what's the name of that one?
It's called The Bedlam.
The Bedlam in Goliath, yeah. I saw them on that tour, like 3 hours and 20 minutes. I went to, what's the name of it, Madrid to see them, like, because I had this in my head, I wanted to see them in a Spanish-speaking country. And I mean, it was just beyond compare. And I got to touch hands with the great man himself, like, you know, Cedric Bixler Zavala, you know, which was amazing. What a show, fabulous, brilliant.
But their music is mad. It's there's loads of instrumentals, lots of just noise, like kind of ambient noise, but that you're also going, oh Jesus Christ, what's about to happen? And musicianship is off the charts, nuts.
And even on the albums, it can kind of, like, where the breaks are between the songs, you don't know.
No,
like,
it just keeps going. It's unreal.
Yeah, they're brilliant. I love the Mars Volta. I think they're fabulous. Do you want a couple of more CDs? Or
I suppose, you would be talking for the rest.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be all me.
You can't be having that.
Yeah, so another one then that I got into about that time was Coheed and Cambria. You know, they kind of don't get talked about enough. A lot of these bands, like, you know, I listen to people and they're on these prog channels. They never talk about Pain of Salvation.
Yeah, and they give it out to us.
And then give out to us, you know, how dare you? How dare you? It's disgraceful. We're into all this stuff, you know. So I was going around to loads of gigs at this time. Coheed and Cambria, one of the best bands I ever saw. Like, you know, these guys, you know, I mean, we did a thing about sophomore albums. Their sophomore albums just like off the charts, like, you know. But Fabulous. I mean, I used to buy CDs from somewhere in Holland, and they used to recommend things to me based on my buying patterns. Even, you know, I mean, I was just buying loads of CDs at the time because the music was so good, and I think it was them that recommended Coheed and Cambria, and they had a bit about, you know, there's these comic books or whatever, these graphic novels, and it's all related to this story, this science fiction story, and this album's coming. I mean, it was like music to my ears, being a prog fan, you know, to hear something like that. So so I started buying Coheed and Cambria albums. Absolutely great, you know. They're not as sophisticated as a lot of bands, more kind of rocky, and they're nice, and they're not, you know, they're not too over the top or
some of their
overly
stuff,
proggy, but
yeah, like the Afterman and all that now I find very kind of proggy,
I
because the
like
way
the
it starts
Afterman,
off
yeah.
with like the robot speaking and the big concept of the whole thing is crazy.
Yeah, that's another great story. Yeah, so I have the Afterman albums, and you know, I have the original ones as well. And I saw them live as well. Great live act, fabulous band, and to me it was great to be able to. Because I thought at that time that the original prog people were getting a bit old. I didn't know they'd still be on the road at this stage. But it was great to be able to go and see younger people performing prog and performing like these music when they still had the energy and everything to do it really well. So yeah, it was fabulous. So yeah, Coheed and Cambria, another one that I'd highly recommend.
Speaking of younger people performing the music, Riverside, we went to see recently enough. We posted a short up on the channel where we were going up to it. Oh my god. Now, I hadn't listened to much of their stuff before going. It was Dad was like, will you come with me to go and see him? And I was like, of course I will.
Please
like,
come
because
with me.
I never get to go and see
I'd
anyone.
be like Billy No Mates at the concert.
None of his friends would go with.
No.
Unless it's Ted Nugent, he can forget about.
Oh god, yeah, all my mates, they're all into kind of, I don't know what happened, yeah. But we were going to go and see Riverside when they were here last year. But they were in a real small venue, and I know that the sight lines aren't great, and I just said no, we won't do it. But this time they were in a really good venue, the Academy, and
they were in some form.
Yeah, they were good.
Get over it. I mean, like, the music was fantastic. The lads were just having such a good time on stage playing. The keyboard player was dancing nearly all night.
He was great.
He was
great showman.
Yeah.
And all you could do, I was looking at him and just imagining, what must it have been like back in the heyday of Prog to see
Dad,
some
what were
of
you
these
saying?
guys?
What were you saying when he was dancing?
That he learnt all these moves from me. It was obvious, yeah. There's a certain kind of prog dancing that only yours truly knows how. So, lessons are available. Get in touch with me through the comments, and I'll set up some one-to-one lessons. Impress all your friends and family. But there you go. Anyway, yeah.
It was a great gig.
Yeah.
Their music is really proggy. It's heavy, but they have a lot of aspects that aren't too heavy either.
What did they have with them, Tara?
They had a Hammond organ.
And a Leslie cabinet.
My first time ever seeing a Leslie cabinet in person. That was awesome. So yeah, they are fantastic.
Brilliant, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, another crowd that I've heard Scott in the Prog Corner mention him a few times, but other than that, seemed to go completely under the radar is Kaipa from Sweden. Absolutely amazing.
Brilliant. I couldn't believe it when you played them for me, and I was going, no way are they around right now making this music.
Yeah.
It was just class.
Technically, these people are up there with Dream Theater.
Absolutely.
The music is really reminiscent of classic prog. Lyrics can be a bit dodgy. I don't think their command of the English language is that great.
It's not their first language.
They're a
so it's
Swedish band, but
understandable.
like they speak English a lot better than I speak Swedish, you know. So what can I say? But an absolutely astounding band. I would recommend anyone, if you're into prog and classic period prog, get something by Kaipa.
Absolutely.
Fantastic albums. Everything I've heard from them has been fantastic. Unfortunately they don't tour. they're a bit like Steely Dan, bit of a studio based band, which like I'd kill to see them live. But yeah, fabulous band, fabulous, love them to bits.
And speaking of Sweden, Opeth.
Opeth.
We've mentioned them loads of times
Loads
on the
of
channel.
times,
Well, Dad's been listening to him for years and years. I got into him when I was a bit older. I'd say about 11 or 12 is when I first got into him. Like I said, I love heavy metal music, and when I heard like Blackwater Park and all, I thought it was class. But I must say, I do prefer ones like Damnation, and the recent one is brilliant. I don't know how to pronounce it. Neither do you.
Inicada Verenum or something.
Yeah, but it's class. It's so good, and I like it when
the
Michael
Sorceress.
Ackerfeld.
There's another one.
Yeah, I like it when Michael Ackerfeld growls, but I think his voice is beautiful, and I prefer when he just sings normally, because of course he should be showcasing that serious talent. Loads of Mellotron, there's Hammond organ in bits of their albums. It's really proggy. And I think they're on tour at the moment.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, we've
now,
got
I
one
don't
coming
know if
up.
they're doing that in Europe. I've only seen them announcing festivals.
Cool. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they come around. We'll go. I've seen them a good few times.
Yeah.
No. They're a great band. Great band. I saw them supporting Dream Theater, even. So. I had a few points with their road crew as well. But there we go, so Opeth, absolutely fantastic band. Be very careful though, if you're not familiar with their work. You could, some of the early stuff is very kind of dark and metal, but then some of it is kind of quite good.
Yeah.
What's that one with the woman in the red robe on the front of it?
I always forget the name of it.
It's
You always
one
say
of
it to me,
these
she's
things.
like crying, and
Yeah.
she looks like a holy
I think it
statue.
might be down at the bottom there, is it?
No, their stuff is over there.
Yeah, but it's one of these special sized ones that won't fit in. But not to worry. Yeah, fabulous band. Much of their later stuff is the way to go with them. Well, depending on what you're into.
I like it all.
Some of it's a bit kind of dark metally, like the earlier stuff, and then they kind of expand the sound into more proggy territory. But fabulous band, absolutely great. And I'm just going to give one more shout out, which is to Transatlantic, because what we must think too is around this time we bands like Marillion who were still putting out albums. I think they had a period when they kind of got lost.
Yeah.
But the last few albums by Marillion have been really good. I really enjoyed them, But Peter Travis got together on this thing with Mike Portnoy and Neil Morse, etc. And we got a fantastic few albums here with Transatlantic. Good stuff, very proggy. I find it a little bit kind of waiting for these peaks and troughs in it a bit much, but some of it is great, and most of it actually is very good. Not a bad band as well, and I know that we've missed out lots of things like the Spock's Beard and other bands, etc.
Dream Theater, we've mentioned them so many times on the channel.
Yeah.
And we're going to see them in October. I finally get to see him, and it'll be the first gig back with Mike Portnoy, so it'll kind of be a historical event.
Yeah, we're going to London to see him, which will be fantastic. I just thought that was a fabulous period for music. I thoroughly enjoyed it all. I enjoyed going to all these gigs and everything like that. You've no idea, if you weren't around the 80s, you've no idea how bad it was. I saw Rick Wakeman on the thing, and he was talking about going into a record shop and cooking up some country and western and a bit of disco and then do you have any prog, and he'd give it to you in a brown paper wrapper on it. It was nearly like that to try and buy any of this stuff. If you mentioned to people you were into anything like this, and they were just out their faces, the blood would drain out of their faces, everything just went terrible, well, as far as I was concerned, it was all plastic and synthesized and everything. And the great story is Paul Young when he did the No Parley album, and he had the great Pino Palladino doing the bass lines, and they went into the studio and Pino was laying down all these fabulous bass lines, and they said, we'll go in and we'll play it like this, because what your man is going to take everything out and just replace it all with synthesizers. Because that's what people did in studios at the time. So it was brilliant listening to all this organic music coming back again. Yeah. Wonderful. Seems to faded out a lot. I think there's little rumblings though of it coming back.
Bits and pieces, but in the mainstream, again, it's just gone very bad. And I can see as well a lot of artists are just going back and sampling songs that have already come out. There's nothing new. And I mean, it's either someone with an acoustic guitar strumming a few chords and singing about how heartbroken they are, or it's someone sampling something and rapping over it or something.
So we're going to do 3 videos on modern prog. So that's our first one. Although, it's modern prog by like some of the people I've been speaking to in the comments. To me, it's not modern because it was 20 years ago like that a lot of this was happening, and that I was going to these gigs and everything. But a lot of these bands are still around. If you're just into the classic era of prog, check some of them out and have a look at some of this stuff, because you might discover something if you're not familiar with them all. And if you are, we hope you enjoyed our little shout out on them. We'll be doing another couple of videos on this and the state of modern prog. We're hoping to talk to some people that are actively creating prog music nowadays. So we're lining up a few people to talk to here as well. So it should be interesting. So if you want to kind of follow this stream with us, please do. And remember those subscriptions. Got to get those subscriptions up, because it all helps us to keep creating this content. Lovely to do a positive video like this, just about loads of stuff that we love.
Our last one was a
bit negative, a bit of a negative space. But yeah, so brilliant. Join us on this journey. Click on subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you all in the next one as we journey through modern prog again. Bye bye.